accommodate the UBS panels and turf. Areas such as the pitcher's mound and base paths are measured and marked, making sure all measurements are exact. The use of a shovel is the best way to establish the proper depths needed. After the proper depths are achieved, the front end loader, guided by the skilled eye of the crew leader, makes easy work of creating the perfectly engineered base. Once the area is skimmed, the task of digging the perimeter drainage begins. It was determined a perimeter drain system would be a good safety feature due to the nature of the torrential rains of Florida. Although the existing earth drains amazingly well, the drain is just to be sure the field is always playable, but not necessary. The laser directs the backhoe to the exact depth and pitch needed to ensure any collected water flows to the proper location. In this case, a 5-inch perforated pipe is placed in the bottom of the drainage ditch. Number 89 stone is deposited into the ditch, making sure the pipe is positioned at the bottom of the ditch and centered left to right. The existing retention pond, beyond the first base side, will act as a collection area for any stormwater runoff collected by the perimeter drain system. As the drain pipe runs around the entire perimeter of the infield, it terminates on the first base line and out to the existing collection pipes heading to the pond. The entire area is now ready for the final skimming of the earth, making sure everything is perfectly pitched and smooth. Any excess dirt is hauled away and the process continues until it's just right. The entire area is carefully graded, making sure that the proper pitch is maintained and the area is very smooth. Once the grading is achieved, the entire field was compacted thoroughly. Multiple passes are done to achieve complete compaction. Finally, hand raking around the base paths was done to make sure the base work is perfect. The permeable spun Bond geotextile was rolled out and anchored with wire landscape spikes. The turf was positioned around the outer perimeter first and worked into the pitcher's mound. This overlap pattern will allow the water to run over the geotextile, not under, as it drains to the lower areas, which in this case was the baselines. The concept is like the shingles on a roof, where one layer overlaps the next, shedding all the water off the geofabric to the low areas. When going over the areas like the mound or bases, the fabric is simply trimmed with a razor knife. The next day was panel installation day. We cut the outer teeth off the rows of panels that run along the baseline. By cutting off the teeth, we leave a solid interior wall to staple the turf to later. A table saw makes easy work of this job. The panels are started at second base and work toward first and third. We extended the panels past what was actually needed, just to create a square starting point. The extra panels will be removed later. Panels are filled in and a square was created, which allowed us to measure, adjust, and create a perfect square area. You must start perfect to maintain perfection as you move ahead. Once the panels were adjusted and everything was on the money, it was time to move on. You can see just how easily the panels go together when you use the installation technique of pulling the panels into each other on a 45-degree angle. As men are assembling, others are driving new loads to the site, while others distribute the panels to the installers. A good installer will require 3 men delivering panels to the installer, keeping him well stocked and moving ahead. When areas like the pitcher's mound are reached, we build just over the desired border and will trim later. We ran a string from home plate to second base, just to make sure the pitcher's mound was perfectly placed. Measure twice, cut once. A jigsaw makes quick work of cutting the marked line, which indicates the outer perimeter of the mound. The installation continues until the last panels are installed. We then cut around the bases, as we did with the mound, and any final trimming around the base paths are done easily with a circular saw. In just over 4 hours, all of the panels are installed, cut, and ready for turf installation. The experienced turf crew made easy work of rolling the heavy rolls of turf onto the solid base structure. No worry about load issues here. The team rolled the turf, following as closely as they could to the measured marks they placed on the panels, indicating turf position. As every roll of turf is installed, the panels are blown clean of all dirt and debris. The use of turf grippers and some good old-fashioned muscle allows the turf to be pulled and positioned to the exact placement. The turf is rough cut, eliminating the factory edges, and eventually cut, positioned, and dry fit to make a perfect seam. The process continues roll after roll until the entire area is roughed in. We secured a thin sheet of plastic between the seams. Normally the seam tape has this plastic bonded to the back so the glue can't leak onto the panels. But in this case, the seam tape was not exactly what we wanted, so a 12-inch wide strip of plastic was a quick fix. The glue bucket and tape dispenser glides easily over the panels, making this turf gluing some of the easiest the team has ever done. Once the glue solvent has had time to flash off, a steady hand and keen eye helps create an invisible seam. The process continues piece after piece until the entire area is seamed as one large unit. A heavy roller is moved over each seam to ensure the glue comes in good contact with the back of the turf. The glue was left to dry overnight. To secure the turf, we ran a row of staples along the edge from first base to second base. We selected this starting point as the grain of the turf ran to this direction. The turf is left long and will be trimmed and tucked later. For this installation, a 12-inch strip of impermeable geotextile was placed 6 inches under the panels and up to the edge and secured on top. This was done to prevent any excess rainwater from wicking into the edge of the clay paths, simply a precaution. The large bags of rubber and sand infill are forklifted into position around the second base area. The automatic sand dispensing machine travels back and forth, both brooming the fibers upward and depositing the perfect amount of infill. Once again, the panels can take the load. By fastening the turf on one side and pushing towards the opposite side, small wrinkles are pushed out to the third base line. The turf barbs do a great job of holding the turf in place, but the 4,000-pound machine creates a lot of force, so a few wrinkles are expected to be pushed out. By the second pass of infill, the grass is as smooth as a billiard table. The process continues for the entire day and night. Once the sand is all in, the excess turf is cut and stapled to the top edge and side of the panels. The turf is buried a few inches below the bottom of the panel and backfilled with the existing baseline clay. No need for a nailer board with ultra-base systems.